afternoon, and we're very happy to have most of you here today. Would you please give a hearty welcome to an inspiring and dedicated individual, Ryan Dickinson.
Wow. Thank you very much. Not much I want to say. I've actually had quite a long interest in the airships of 1909. In fact, I think I collected my first account, newspaper account, about 32 years ago. I just realised that a couple of days ago. So the thing is, no one's really asked me to talk about this in the last couple of years, and I said that I was thinking of writing a book. And particularly, I got together with a gentleman called Peter Fleury, who's now back in New Zealand, in Dunedin, and we've been combining our information, trying to come up with some really good material. There's some brilliant material, and I hope to show that some of that here this afternoon. First of all, can I have the first slide, please? Okay, for those of you who don't know, this is New Zealand. Basically, the main area for 1909, there are a series of Zeppelin-like craft seen over New Zealand and in Australia, particularly centered around this area in Dunedin, slightly south and to the west of it, which at this time of the year, and at that time of the year too, was pretty cold. As you can imagine now, I want to particularly just dwell on the early material, the stuff that comes from the very first sighting that was reported, why the whole thing sort of really got out of control, as it were, and became New Zealand's biggest ever UFO flap. And then look at some of the more interesting Australian material that Peter and I have been particularly coming up with in the last few years. It's a lot harder to get, unfortunately. Now, I would first of all like to show you a map of how it got started. Okay, this area of Dunedin City itself is up about here off this map. Now, what happened essentially was that on the 11th of July in 1909, a number of people were seeing some friends at the railway station. I'm going to say focus on it here. Over here at a place called Stirling. Looking across, they noticed an unusual series of lights over the Kaitangata Hills out over the area known as Rongoa. Now, this is only about 10-15 kilometres away. They watched for about half an hour. They saw their friend off on the train, I believe. And then one of the men sort of started walking back home. He was then watched this aircraft. The lights then reappeared again. Now, they seemed to sort of come in, circle over and follow them and go up inland, where they disappeared in what he said was the direction of the Blue Mountains. Now, I'll just switch to another map here. Right. Once again, here we have the Wangaloa Hills. And the thing to particularly notice here is the Clutha River. The Clutha is a very large, very dynamic river with a lot of water in it. It appears that the airship, as it's called then, moved up the Clutha River until it came to a bunch of hills. Actually, the Second Mountains by Australian standards, but a little bit more than hills by New Zealand standards. And it was just seeing it disappearing in this direction, and no one quite knew what happened to it. Nothing much more happened for the next couple of weeks until all of a sudden this little township was red dot here, a place called Kelsey, started to report a series of very, very unusual phenomena. These were daylight sightings. Now, could I please have the next map? This is the township Kelsey as it ever was. Basically, this is a plan of the town as it was designed to be in 1875. It's at the conjunction of two rather stream here, a rather large river. The area floods a lot. You can see this by the Oxbow Lakes. And the result is that every now and then it gets a really dramatic flood that occurs in this area. In fact, it's so dramatic that about 15 years ago, the town got into run away with the next within about 4 or 5 years. And they had so many, in fact, they decided to abandon this whole house the township doesn't exist anymore, which is really rather sad. In 1909, suddenly became very much the centre of attention in New Zealand. The account that you've probably seen most of, the next slide, please, It's from an account that comes in the Otago Daily Times, a local newspaper that comes out to me, a very well considered newspaper. Now, basically, at daylight Sunday, this aircraft was an airship seemed to come out from the area to the west of the, sorry, to the east of the council itself, circle over the town, and then head back the way it comes back to the mountains. The next one say, simply come out from here, come out over the town, and then children watching the day, thereabouts, head back to the mountains. It's also witnessed by one woman, Mrs. Russell. This is always one of the stories that smells most people take. However, the Otago Daily Times also put out a weekly newspaper called the Otago Witness. And I avoided actually looking at this particular publication for a number of years because I thought that it was probably something religious nonsense. Next slide, please. Then someone said, have you tried with the Otago Witness with photographs? And suddenly, here is a photograph of Mrs. Russell, a person who confirmed what the children had seen, and with her family. And I, in fact, have seen another photograph. This is actually taken from a book called Kissing the Carousel by a local historian, Brownlee. And I think it's wrong actually, but I think actually the children along here are some of the same children who produced the diagrams as just seen before. Next slide, please. The other interesting photograph that appears about the same area, the same publication is this. It shows the area where it was actually taken. Now, where it was actually sighted. Now, this, okay, to the east of Kelso itself is a hill there called the Wooded Hill. Nowadays, this is covered with forest. In those days, it's probably pretty good stuff. But on this particular day, about the 16th of 26th of July, at lunchtime, the kids are being sort of sorted out of the kids. The town was only a couple of miles long. Children being let out of school, probably go home for lunch. And one of the reporters was off just after 12 o'clock. You see that they come out from the wood, and behind the wood hill, this point here, turn around, and go back. Numbers here indicate this indicates, in fact, there are probably less than 100 meters of ecologies. So, we had a look at the actual pictures that the children had produced. Recently, we've been having a look at how big the was. 140 meters. Definitely wasn't in South America. Probably our first attempt what the Kelso is. In New Zealand, there are so many sightings of the Kelso area. The usual phrase is the Kelso issue. The colour was black, and I've included up in this point this is an outline of the area just across the channel. One of the reasons we believe required some decaying situation was because of the area that just crossed the beach. And the whole thing was treated as a huge success. Everyone was actually trying to think about it. Some of the reports, newspapers were trying to quite explain what was man and the English Channel showed that the first time the aeroplanes were distinct commercial possibilities of going to transport. They weren't just transport. People began to build their excitement. The other big development was going to work at the same time was, of course, the Zeppelin Council using their experiments with airships. Now, I'll go over those in a moment. And of course, airships weren't very seen in many ways until national success until they existed. Very early in the very much as a playing around with toys. But the channel sort of changed very quickly. In the meantime, people still very much aware of the airship. The Kelso airship itself was simply some level of difficulty around the aircraft with the living building. It was a very real problem at that time. Now, as I've said, this is our very first attempt to draw and I think when in the recent months I think that we have to be much more. I have the next slide. But the main reason why we did this, we did this exercise, was to get a look at the size of this gas envelope. You have to determine how much it's got. Presume, for example, with hydrogen, you can sort of get an estimate of how much weight it is, how big this thing is. Now, at the same time, this is the most up-to-date aircraft in the world at the time. This is Zeppelin, L5, which they not became Zeppelin 2. This thing is absolutely massive. It's several hundred feet long. It's got over 500,000 people of gas. These things are so big, they actually built them out over land. It's 2 years, it's just to build on. They built this floating tank on lakes. Another reason was that lakes, of course, contain water. Hydrogen is very flammable. So our own cells of water is still like hydrogen capture. This is much known. The other type of thing that I've got to is very low. Top speed of ground is regulated about 40 miles an hour. Top speed of these balloons is exactly about 30 miles. By comparison, the same scale, these are all the same scale. This is the size of exhibition like D-Ride jets. Maybe any smaller, but obviously this is the reduce the little impact of reducing the size. So if you're looking at something like this concept airship, we still only have people working for about 100 so it makes you start to wonder, perhaps there's something else that really wasn't there. As I've said, I've recently tried to look at redrawing this because some of the drawings and some of the descriptions don't quite fit. There's a problem with basically shape here, and you don't have, and many people see this in the down Now, in those days, people were still coming to terms with language. Quite often, for example, they refer to power packs, and things like the wheel. They also get back to 1909 and what wheels were like. We had spoked carriage wheels. And when they sort of rolling on very fast, of course, the spokes tend to sort of develop that special power-like look. And the children actually describe a wheel on the back. So very quickly, this wheel is very common. There's so many of the accounts of caches that we see used in Australia. We saw reflections of this thing at that. What I believe is instead of having a design of I don't think the gas bag is probably the back up. This is still the bottom view, but the top, the side view, is not the back up. It still have the gondola down the bottom. And what I've seen, and what was described as sails, was the kind of rudder. These kinds of rudders here were used in some of the earlier French models, the balloons. Didn't see the ability to stop it. So you get to drive them on a straight and narrow level. And that design of these kinds of sails, or in this case, ailerons. Ailerons on this side, for example, and stabilize the fence here. Go along like that. These will help keep it moving straight ahead. The problem about this design is that you have not the same. Even you see the letters, this bit rather than but I think that this particular one, once I've modified it on these other structures that we mentioned, like drawings, it will have something which is much closer to Kelso airship. Interestingly, it makes it like no other airship has ever been designed because of these structures here. So it all just adds interest to it. Now, the other interesting thing about the airships is that they're first seen in Australia, and really this was an Australasian phenomenon. It wasn't just in New Zealand. The thing is that in New Zealand, okay, the distances were not as great as in Australia. You had a large number of newspapers which carried good accounts of local events. And it's quite noticeable if you go through the newspaper material, there were people commenting on something a long way from them. They tend to sort of take it more than this, like there were accounts of people actually hearing voices coming from the aircraft, checking possibly a German or something like that, so they do some long time. When you actually go to the local newspaper, you don't get those details. embellishments on these embellishments it became obvious during Peter Perry and my investigations that these were also seen in Victoria. We kind of thought at the time this was a copycat event. There are certain accounts, this one's from the Otago Daily Times. It refers to the Dandenong, an area just southeast of Melbourne itself, where a reverend was staying for the weekend, and he and his neighbours watched a series of lights. Now, surprisingly enough, his account, the first account which did period in 1909, is very similar to the very first account we had in Wongaloa, Stirling, Bell, Pluto, and that sort of thing. It's surprisingly similar in many qualities to the lights that we saw at that time. It's also very similar to so many UFO accounts, UFO investigators like myself, come across today. Now, can I have the next map, please? In Australia, okay, fine. Dandenongs down here. Also seen people on a train, the Melbourne to Sydney Express around Hilltop and Picton. It was also reported they watched it for quite some time. The parallels between this and the quality of the reporting to people who were not even aware of the actual what had happened in New Zealand, aware of the details, is very similar to example something that was reported on the West Coast of the South Island of New Zealand. A number of people, a large number of people on the train going from particularly to Graham reported seeing this blue light, this object after seeing light bobbing up and down, or waving undulating motion, very similar to what was seen at Hilltop. Okay, it's also, I have a report coming from Zeehan in Tasmania. I'm having difficulty verifying that because, once again, local libraries in Australia don't always have very many copies of newspapers from other states, and they also very good copies of old newspapers you need to area. The Zeehan account is alluded to by Sydney newspapers that I can't find in the electric. An account over here, something like Pingelly in the Hill. It's a typical account in Western Australia about something that's being seen here. And later on, the latest account was one of the I find very interesting because it's actually a chance to Peter Kerr and myself trying to validate something working with something and coming to our going towards material. It comes from the 25th of October Onslow, up here in the north west Australia. Basically, I think it's a very, very, very good sign. On October 25th, this is AJ Rowe White, the manager of the Media Station in Onslow, was the first suspect contacted by the director of the device and the observation line of the music show. This was prepared to swear up, more like a miracle, as my brother said extra. Dreams and ethics and heaven and guidelines. The sun shone and the flashes came from it. But the flashes came from very similar to New Zealand accounts, with flashes of light seen coming off the propeller and the wheel at the back, as though reflected from something involvement or from metalwork. Three station hands also saw the object, which the newspapers today described as a mystery airship. One of them made a sketch of it. The customs captain Onslow, Elton Timberley, submitted a detailed report on the site to the Ministry of Customs. We passed it on to the Defence Department. Mr. Timberley thought the object really was an airship. The work he suggests on the invention he was experimenting with perhaps from a foreign base or anything else. It's something to extremely interesting as well as in research. The comparison of the arguments that he made for what the object was at the time. It was obviously from an airship, some sort of ship off the coast, perhaps a German ship that's lost and gone astray. It was perhaps the work of some inventor now. People must have all the time guessing what the inventors were doing at the time. It certainly wasn't. It's also quite science technology that was available at the time. And this particular case, I really would like to sort of like now it's very difficult. I'm just going to go to see if I can get a copy of the report that was made in 1979 to the Defence Department. Maybe that's still found away somewhere. It'd be a wonderful item to have to sort of verify something that we're working on at this stage. very, very good tool of there's a heap of information about what I want. A huge number of newspapers around. The significant number of Australian chats material. We're willing to follow this up. It's a very, very interesting area. Nowadays, the things that you look at is probably what would make us feel the classification today. Obviously, we're typical of that. Probably built by that would work probably much better than the original fact. Fairly cheap for perhaps a few $1,000. But in those days, you look at the technology that was behind the guns, the information you think of this very, very serious thing. Now, while some academics have looked at this subject, the issues of 1909, they tend to see it being a response to the arms being fighting that was going on in the Olympics, which is called World War I. And they say that in this keep saying that this is the Germans here down under people were scared of the Russians. But I would like to go back to the very, very first account that came through in New Zealand. In fact, it's very similar in many respects to the same sort of accounts as when Louis Blériot through the channel. People were quite ecstatic that at long last someone had done something fantastic for the issues. And in this particular case, I should point out too that something the cause of the disgust was also Mars. Mars was something close to the end of this time. And these articles, Mars article was actually revived in the 1950s, 1954 in New Zealand, as being another indication that Mars, close to the Earth in 1909, close to the Earth in 1954, was in fact the source of these objects. It's quite an element debate undertaken in New Zealand. But it's something I'd like to think about before this. One of the very first accounts that we could do was he got to the police person on the conflict against the Just the sword logic, because this on a few journalists there's an explanation that is also we think this struck something that would not be simply move along sideways. Whereas I gaze at that grand large cells and essentially stone consider I have voluntary projected wow, but we are not going to be on that ship. It seems to run with hope. I think that is not so much the reflection of this and in a sense of excitement, some sort of excitement. Today, we can kiss the last truth. Thank you very much. Look at your own newspapers, one of the newspapers in Australia.
Thank you, Brian. Today, as a firm believer in the possibility and probability of other life in space, she joined the Victorian UFO Research Society in 1958. She was invited to become president of this Research Society in 1978. We are glad she could come here today to tell us more about a very unique and eye-opening close encounter experience, a classic case that is known throughout the worldwide UFO community. Please welcome now Judy McGee.
My belief in this came when I first joined the organization in 1958, and I met Reverend Bill and his friend Reverend Catwell in 1959. They were in Melbourne at the time, and they'd just come down after this experience. And you can see there, in the lower part of the picture of Boynard, that's where the
come on, bitch, speaking of life.
an explosion one morning. One day, and they came out to see what had caused the
Turn up her mic, please. Turn up her mic.
It was only about 400 feet away from them. and it had 4 entities on it. 2 entities seemed to be working on the object, and then 2 disappeared, and 2 more would come out, and on the total there were 4 entities on the shelf all at one time. And this, of course, made me believe that this object certainly was not from this planet. It remained there from about 7:15 until 10:30 one evening, and during that period of time, there were about 5 or 6 smaller circular objects which came from the clouds and seemed to take a position around the top of the object. And some of these small ones would float away and come back again over that period of time. At 10:30, they had all left. That's the sketch, or an artist's sketch of what Reverend Gill saw. So you can see the 2 entities now. He was very meticulous too about his documenting of the times of the object's appearance and the entity's appearance and disappearance. But thank you very much. That is the Reverend Gill, and he's pointing to where the mission station was. People usually describe objects as from the things that they can recognize. So the natives in New Guinea saying that these look like teardrops to them because they're up in the mountains, they're let alone any white man. And Alexander's armies were dispersed the country on at least 3 occasions by what they term flying shields. And the shield, if you recall, has a dome in the middle of it where they hold the hand. Thank you. That's the last one. My discussion today is a close encounter with Maureen Puddy. Maureen Puddy's case came to my notice through radio 3AW in Melbourne. I don't listen to radio very often, but I'm happy. But on this occasion, some member rang me and said that they had been a lady speaking on the radio for about 3/4 of an hour at that stage, who had a close encounter with a UFO. And I spoke to Maureen, and I spoke to her for about an hour on the telephone, and I was intrigued by her report. And she promised to come and tell us about it at our general meeting, which she did. We had a full house there, which really surprised her, and people were thrown out into the foyer. And she started out by saying that, although I say I believe here, these encounters occurred in 1972, but were never written up in our publication until 1983, Review. And Maureen addressed one of our quarterly meetings in 1995, and was attentively accepted, to say the least. It has been said by some researchers who have never even met her that her case was an abduction. But to Paul Norman and myself, who investigated this one rather thoroughly, it was certainly not an abduction because we were there on the whole of the occasion, especially the third one. Her story began when her son was injured at school in Chester Cross. The library fell on him and broke his hip. And he'd been taken to the hospital by the Royal Helicopter Angel of Mercy ambulance. And Maureen had just become the president of his service. And while driving home after visiting her son in the hospital on the 5th of July 1972, she called her mother's home for a cup of tea and a bit of a chat. And she left there about 9:15 p.m., taking the shortcut along the Wirrawong home from Frankston. That's the south side of Melbourne. I don't know how many of you know that area. It's quite an open area. It's sort of semi-country. And while driving home, on this occasion, she saw a blue light which came down over the car. And she thought it was a helicopter because they have a blue light with flicks on the underside. And thinking that the helicopter might have a message for her, she got out of the car and had a look at it. And she was really quite staggered because it was a huge object. It would have spanned the road, that's the macadam strip, plus the 2 side pieces on the road, which would have made it an extremely large saucer, which would be about, the object was possibly in her estimation, about 2 telephone Cobb's high and would have spanned a strip of road which is 24 feet wide, also taking in the nature strip on the other side of the road. They made themselves approximately 100 feet in diameter. Now, having already alighted from the car, she leaned back and took a look at the object and wondered what it was that she was seeing. The object's surface was smooth, it had no joints, or wells, seams, or rivets, no windows or portholes, and no wheels. The huge object was radiating a brilliant light or blue light and an intense glow, and there was no movement, no wobbling, no rotating, but a faint humming could be heard. And she noted all these things while wondering what sort of aircraft it was before fear took over. At which time she quickly got back into the car and drove off as fast as she could, only to find the object was maintaining its speed just above and behind the car. No matter how fast she travelled, the object seemed to remain at the same distance. Aware that the blue light was no longer with her, and seeing the very bright light sweep off in the opposite direction, Mrs. Cuddy realised that the chase must have been over, and it followed her for about 8 minutes, or 8 miles rather. Didn't go over 9 minutes, 8 miles. The witness reported her sighting to the police at Romana, and some family members, and also some friends who considered it was a bit of a joke. So she decided to do a little bit more about it. But not until about 3 weeks later. Then on the 25th of July, in that same year, after having visited her son again, she was there for some time, she followed a similar route home, had a cup of tea with another, and left again about the same time, 9:15. She arrived at the Murdoch Road, travelled a short distance of about 1 mile when the blue light once again appeared before her. She did again. And this time, I'm not going to stop. And she was hanging onto the steering wheel and nothing was going to move from that car. And the car drifted to a stop on the side of the road. No matter what she did to the holding car, it wouldn't reply to her demands. She was wondering, where do I go from here? She was rather terrified and gripped the wheel and looked out the windscreen and saw the object hanging silently in the above the car and just in front of it and above the car. And the countryside was bathed in a blue light. Then a voice spoke to her. Not audibly, she said, but in her head it was a thought put into her head. And as if words had been put into the computer, it came out the other end in the most beautifully modulated and very well-spoken English. During this time, she experienced the most unusual sensation. She said that you could feel that you'd be on the background, but that was the impression that she got. It was perfectly still, perfectly quiet. And the message read, "Don't be afraid." Pause. We mean you no harm. Another pause. Your tests will be negative. And she'd already had someone and they were negative, but she thought they couldn't be. Tell the media, and a longer pause, and you are now in control. And at that moment the car started up again as if she had turned the key. And she didn't touch the key at all, she just sat there, she was stunned. So the car started up because she hadn't turned it on. They had apparently. And she stopped at the same police station to find it closed. Then she went on to the next one, still on her way home. And she told the police officer that I want to report the sighting of a flying saucer. Yes, and he replied. And she insisted in fear and frustration. So the policeman humoured her and had it recorded. The next morning she phoned Leverton, RAAF station, and asked if they could offer any explanation of what she'd seen, to which they replied that it couldn't have been an aircraft or a balloon, as neither would have been in the area at the time. But he didn't say as it could cause panic. They would send her a questionnaire to complete, but when asked about this later, she said it had to have been an astronaut who understood, and I believe she didn't bother to return it. But Paul and I were invited to go through the Air Force class, and we discovered that she obviously had returned it at a later date. Must have thought much better of it. Naturally, they questioned Maureen regarding her experience in the car. What was the message mean? She said she had not had any recent tests, but she had some about 6 months before, and they had proved negative. There was no use telling her not to be afraid because she was terrified. As for telling the media, she phoned 3 or 4 TV stations, and one was mild and interested, and they were showing chariots of the gods at the time. And 2 made light of the news, and she didn't bother to contact the third one, the fourth one. And I heard through a radio talk that program which investigation she had contacted because the UFO had said to contact the media, and she was not wanting to see them again. UFO North, I think, not UFO Nuts. We're the UFO Nuts. And at this stage, I spoke to her on the telephone, and only spoken to her for 1 hour. But when I invited her to address one of our meetings, and we had the National Mutual Theatre at the time, it was a delightful little thing there, and she agreed to do this, and we sat her down the front where she couldn't see what the people coming in, and I said, well, you'll be comfortable there, and you won't see anyone. So when she got up to speak, she was standing at the number of people, filling the hall, and outside into the lobby. But that hall was crowded, and it was very, very quiet. Right through the whole hour of the talk, and even people outside who were standing. But everybody was totally fascinated. During the period, the Christian period at that time, Maureen was put through her paces. She did think that what she saw was herself. And then she suffered any burns or heart defects. To both these questions, the question was, did she feel herself? And to both the questions, she answered no. Did she think there were any other witnesses? She thought there must have been one at least, because as she was approaching the railway crossing, she saw a man with a torch leading a car across the railway. And surely the UFO must have passed overhead. But would have been going in the same direction, so he managed to see it. Later, the man's wife contacted her, and also another lady living on the ridge, the range ridge there, who'd seen the light coming across the road. Both had seen this. The third experience was purely a psychic experience. And this happened about 6 months later. On Wednesday evening, I received a phone call from a rather agitated woman who said she'd been trying to contact 2 other representatives. Probably a good thing that she couldn't contact them because she might have had to find trouble. And I don't think she really wanted that. She was quite happy to speak to them, but not to go public in media or publications. For some days she'd been hearing a voice calling to her, Maureen, return to the meeting place. And it didn't matter where she went. She could hear this voice. She heard it at the front door. My husband was in a wheelchair at this stage. He was an invalid and had at the same time. And she said there was nobody there. She went up shopping and turned around to hear somebody who'd been saying, Maureen, return to the meeting place. And this was getting on her nerves now because she had a little worried she was going shopping that day. And she felt that she had to go to the meeting place and was too scared to go alone. So when she rang my number, I that night, they took our supper with us and went off in the car down to meet Maureen at the meeting place. We said we'd wait to see her at a local substation, which was right opposite where we were going to be. And she came along about 8:30 and rather agitatedly dashed over from her car to ours. And we were there. We were really quite early. We were still, I think, only just right. And she came over rushing over and saying, I think we're off the road back there. And I said, well, I suggest you tell us all about it when we drive to the meeting place. So she said that there was, before going further, I should have said that as I entered her car to go away to the meeting place, I had an odd feeling when I touched the electrical experience when I actually got off the car and I got a sudden electric shock, which probably wouldn't have been unusual for me because I thought maybe someone near the substation might have had an effect on the car and touching the metal handle might have had an effect on slightly electric shock on myself. However, I got into the car and I said, she told me that there was a little man sitting there when she turned around the corner up there. And I said, is he still there? And I thought, well, if he is, I'm sitting on him. And she said, no, he went when I got out of the car. When she got out of the car. And I said, what did he look like? And sorry. And she was really quite shocked at this. And he got out of the car. He was like a little man, she said, but in a tinsel type suit, silvery. And he was described as sitting exactly where I was, which was quite close to the very middle of the seat. But I thought, oh, it's going to come with and I'd moved in. But he wasn't there, and I couldn't visualise it. I had no idea. I mean, I might have a very good imagination at times, but it didn't go to that extent. And when we got back to the meeting place, it was a little drive off amongst some trees. We all got into the back of the car, and I was sitting in the front with her still. And we were talking about the latest incident when she grabbed my arm and shook me. And she pointed across and she said, there he is. And you see him. And you see him. She was shaking him. And I tried to explain to her that it was possibly like close to the television from to her. And she said he was coming closer to the car. In fact, he was so close that when I put my arm out, I could possibly touch him. And I was edging closer to her because she said that he wanted to get out of the car. And I said, well, come on, I'll come with you. And she wasn't going to get out of the car. She was going on to that side. She wasn't going to do it. So we asked Paul if he would get out of the car. Brave Paul. And walk around the car to see what the entity would do. And he did. He was brave enough to do it. And I said to Maureen, what's the entity doing, Maureen? And she said, he's taking a step back to let Paul get between the car and himself. So when she had the evidence in the place, she still wasn't ready to get out. So I tried still trying to ease her out of the car. Anyway, the entity then became impatient and started to walk away or move away and disappeared behind some thin bushes there. And she suddenly commenced describing the interior of the object. She said, oh, yes, the object. And I said, well, what's it like? And she told us that the entity had been standing there pointing to a large mushroom-like thing, like object in the centre of the circular room. It was a huge circular room, she said. Couldn't see any doors or windows or anything. The centre object, which was taller than an average person, was a bit like a jelly. She said the first part was a bit like the top of the Roman numerals all the way around it. And there was another part of it, the interior part, which seemed to be moving like a jelly. So I asked her if it was like a gyroscope. And she said, what's a gyroscope? Well, we'd asked her that later on, and she had no idea what a gyroscope was. So we went on. She said there were Roman numerals. Apparently, looking around the room, she became very agitated and started to cry. And I put my arm around her shoulder. And she said, I can't get out, I can't get out. There are no doors or windows. I can't get out. That was her great fear at the time she was in this UFO, couldn't get out. She didn't realise she was still sitting there with me. And she was really upset. And clearly, I clearly visualised what she was doing, as if there was a picture in front of us. I knew exactly what she was describing. She said, the little man was standing there pointing to this object. And she was watching and didn't take her eyes off it. So I decided, because she was so upset and agitated, that I was getting a bit concerned now, because I could feel the tears falling down to my head, which was around her shoulders. And I directed my thoughts to them, and I thought, well, I got nothing to lose. And I thought, well, you know, I'm grateful for her state of health. If you can help her, please do. And you got her into this state, so get out of it. And I thought she might have had a nervous breakdown or a stroke or something. She was just so upset. And anyway, they said, she said they wanted her to close her eyes. And she said, no, I'm not going to close my eyes. You know, when you blink, you have no idea of blinking because you do it so naturally. So she obviously blinked and then I was really relaxed. And she must have gone up into a sort of a trance or something like that. And then she began again to describe the interior of the object, and she still could see no way out, and she was still upset. And after a brief period, she sort of came back to us, she relaxed, and she said, oh, I'm back. And I said to Paul, well, let's have this cup of tea. We had a cup of tea with us, and we'll discuss it further and see what else we can make out of it, and see what she could get, see if Maureen can remember anything else. So we put the lights on, we got the thermos flask out, and then Maureen a cup of tea, and she's all of a sudden, really, give her a cup of tea on her. She said, oh, I'm back in there again. And she started describing it again, and repeated the whole description all over again. And after a little while, she said, more calmly, he's gone. He's gone this time. I said, how do you know he's gone? She said, the feeling's different. It's gone completely. It's gone. It's different. So now she came to normal. And everything seemed quite normal, so I went on the rest of her discussing the mushroom. And I was trying to identify it because she wasn't very technically minded. And I asked if it was like a gyroscope. Maureen was apparently unfamiliar with that term. I'd only come into met the term because I was working in an airline and they took us through all the area where they used to do up the aircraft and go over all these things. So I knew what it was. And she picked up a little gadget off the dashboard and said, would this be like it? And to my astonishment, it was one of those tiny little compasses that people had stuck on their dashboard. And she said that was almost identical to the mushroom that she'd been viewing. And it sits on this little one sits on the dashboard, you know, the suction cup. I hadn't seen one before, I haven't seen one since. But we didn't let her go home on them, and she didn't wish to go either on her own because she was afraid that her heart would come back again. So she didn't want another visit with her friends, so forth. All the nerves on the part of the drive, she thought she might have had an accident or something. So I drove in her car and Paul followed us, and we went further down the line, further away from home. And I believe this time that it was about 10:30 or 11 o'clock when we got down to her home. We didn't really take that much notice of the time, but it was about that time. And of course, the events went through the air again. Her husband was there, and we made a cup of tea and sat and discussed it again. And was I able to communicate with the entity when he said to close her eyes? Did I really communicate with them? Did they receive my thoughts regarding her agitated state? Because my own thoughts after this. If so, what thoughts can they receive from more important and delicate situations than that particular one? Can they transmit to us and transmit to them? I do believe that as science has gone on, and since those years, of course, naturally, we can communicate a lot more easily with so many various ways. And I thought perhaps at this stage that there isn't actually hypnotists on the stage, you know, when politicians on there, they can either, I can't hypnotize you or come on, and they get up there and they put them under this stuff. And when I snap my fingers, you will go into a deeper trance, or you will come out of it and we will do such and such a thing. Was this second or third case the time when they snapped their fingers at Maureen Putty, and she went along and went into this so-called trance and visualised the inside of this object. Was the second meeting of that such case in her car just prior to speaking to her was at the time when they perhaps snapped their fingers then. But if you could be in a vacuum, then it would be like such an incident. There was no sound, there was no movement, but all was calm and quiet. Then the voice delivered the message. Was the third incident usually something independent when they were expected to happen? If this is so, how many people can they witness? Perhaps in their sleep, so they react when they wish to, or whenever they snap their fingers. I find this a very sobering thought. Perhaps some of these reactions are the result of this snapping of the fingers. Thank you for your attention.
Our next speaker is well known to all of us here in the Australian UFO community, especially here in South Wales. He's known for speaking his mind even when he don't want to hear what must be said. Consider this quote from his article in the most recent issue of the UFO Reporter magazine that's available back there at the bookstore. The way UFO investigators go about their research has to change radically. The self-censorship practiced by many UFO groups on their own researchers as to what is an acceptable research direction has severely limited our work. We need to be more accommodating of diverse opinions. We should work openly and as a team. We need to look at all the data fellow researchers can produce for the critical information that we seek. He has been active in UFO organizations since 1973. He served as president of the Australian Centre for UFO Studies from 1985 to 1990. He is also one of the founders of UFO Research New South Wales in 1991, along with Brian Dickinson and Morgan McGee, and served as president of this group until just last year. You could say that right now he's taking a bit of a breather, but let me ask you, just how do you let go of the tail of a tiger? Please welcome Paul Sogan. Let's make a big deal and ask from someone to share it. Sharing nationally. There are three types of ufologists. There's the investigator, there's the researcher, and there's the theorist. I fall into the third category, which is the theorist side. Ufologists are extraordinary people, unraveling the mysteries of the extraordinary world we live. I'm proud to be part of this awakening of the human mind with my colleagues here before you today as a panel of experts dwelling into the consciousness of man. What is real and what is not? Casna D. John wrote, Tales of Power, that we perceivers of the world, but the world we perceive is an illusion created by the description given to us at birth. And we maintain this illusion through reason and talk. So when we talk about ufology, we're talking about mystic or a mysterious part of our being. And I think it needs to be understood. As a UFO theorist, I've been investigating the phenomena for the last 23 years and only recently begun to start putting the pieces together so I get a greater understanding of the subject. My earliest conference paper last year examined the postulation the human race was created by an alien race. This was confirmed by Newton Howard in her book Alien Harvest, suggesting that we are abducted for genetic material along with cattle. Today I will speak about classes of aliens coexisting with human race in terms of origins, mannerisms, and behaviour. Before I start, I'll just say that I've had competing needs for my time in the last week.
I'm going on holidays on Monday, and unfortunately I backed the camper van into a brick wall. And I've had to do a few repairs. Okay, where does one, and also chase that flint last night, the sloping town as well. And this is straight off the printed about half an hour ago. Where does one start to rediscover the information about alien influences here on Earth? Human history is full of 3, 4, 5, and 6-fingered giants and dwarf people. The Bible is a great history book of such matters. In Genesis 6:4, in those days when the sons of gods had intercourse with daughters of men and had children by them, the Nephilim were on earth. They were heroes of old, men of renown. In Hebrew, giant translates as Raphael. Raphala is the plural, Raphaelism, of uncertain etymology. They were tall, large-framed, powerful. They lived southwest of Jerusalem, Jehoshaphat. Various ufologists have tried to classify aliens in lines of classification. I'd like to go to that second overview. Okay, classification of aliens. What they've done is they've looked at it and they said, okay, looking at the degree of strangeness, and they try to look at the physical appearance. Some people looked at the actual clothing they wear, classify them by their clothing. Obviously, the ideal way would be to find out where they came from, classify them by their origin. But that seems a little bit difficult because we're being abducted, not them being abducted by us. Okay, McCall, John D. Hebra, and Alvin Lawson in 1977 derived a group of categories of aliens. Human, there. Then you've got your humanoid, basic bipedal shape, head, 2 arms, 2 legs. Then you've got your animal. Then you've got your robot. Then you've got your exotic. And then you've got your apparitions. Interesting classification. If we go to that overhead view. In this next overhead, we've looked at another study that looked at the various types of aliens that have been picked up. And they all seem to have some basic characteristics. You can see from there, what are they? They're all bipedal. In other words, they've got 2 arms, 2 legs, and a head. They're humanoid in structure. And our evolutionists suggest that as a consequence of evolution, the eyes come forward, the brain is fairly close to the eyes, and for mobility and dexterity, we need arms and we need legs. So that seems to be maybe universal for. Okay, next over please. Thank you. Okay. McDonald also looked at the classification system and came up with this scenario. And what we're looking at here is we've got a grey, we've got the Roswell figures, we've got neonate, which is basically infant humanoid shape, and we've got the Nordic group, then we've got the reptilian, and then we've got the hybrid, which is a cross between us and them. Now, when you look at all that, it doesn't seem to make a great deal of sense, and it seems to be a little bit all over the place. But basically, it's bipedal, you've got head, 2 arms and a leg, it's very common. I postulate combine the groups based on functions and alien strata derived from abduction experiences. We go to slide 6, right through that little section. Okay, my classification, I'm looking at the first class being animal, and chupacabras of Puerto Rico would be one that would fit into that category. It was described as large, wet, black, hairy gorilla-like, about 5 foot tall. Sound like an animal to you? Yeah. Okay. In Babylonian times, you had the Onus, which was a god, and it was basically a fish-tailed humanoid type of person, a god. And in Africa, you looked at the Dogon, from the Dogon group in Africa, the Dogon tribe, fish tail. Okay, that's the animal classification. The next group I think we should classify as would be humanoids. And these would include reptilians and the Nordics, And basically the ones that were fairly similar to, basically just a humanoid shape. Seem to exhibit sort of human or vulnerable characteristics. The next group, well, I considered important, was the human hybrid clones, and the Nordics, would fall into this group. Hybrid clones settle and supervise abductions and take up functions perhaps like psychologists or social workers on board their ships based on some of the information from the abducted experience. That's sort of abduction scenario we're looking at. Just get along with those. That good. You would, Andrew? Okay, the next group, so at the groups, humanoids are broken down into two groups. Humanoids, which is basic, and the hybrid or clones, which is the Nordic group. So we've got one animal, two humanoids, three. Now the third classical group would be the androids. And the greys would fit into this sort of classification. And we're looking at beehive control, short-term memory, basic function type units, in other words, robots. And the fourth category is apparitions, holographic projections. And an example of this would be aliens that have been observed that can't be totally visibly identified or seen, that have a wispy nature about them, that probably don't exhibit any feet. Okay, so the fetal mode of movement is not clear. That's the suggestion that I'm looking at. So it's four classifications. You've got animals, you've got humanoids, it's broken down into hybrids and clones, and then you've got the androids or robots, and you've got the apparitions. So you've got basically four groups based on what they're on about. What I might do is now go into some of those groups. So we're looking at the animal class, where we can look at the chupacabras, blood-sucking vampires, creatures from Puerto Rico, Mexico, and South United States of America. They kill animals and attack humans. The chupacabras is a Spanish word meaning chupa, which is to suck, and cabras, which is goats. So they're basically goat suckers. That's the description from the native nationals that live in those areas. They're described as having 3 toes, 3 fingers, with 50mm long fingernails, and they smell like wet dogs that have been in the sewer. They have small pointed ears, they're thin, patchy spotted hair, and shades of grey and oranges. And I suppose you'd all like to meet one of those. On the 11th of March 1995, just more or less recently, at the town of Orquistas, in the centre of an island, Puerto Rico, Edwin Brito Hermendez found 8 of his sheep dead with 3 strange puncture holes in their chest. There's been reports of human attacks more recently. Okay, the second group, which is class 2. Can we go to slide 17, please? Majestic has come to the fore with Stanton Friedman and others as being a reliable document and evidence the United States Air Force were doing covert UFO tactical surveillance and retrievals relating to UFO events. And they've classified in their manual, and that's a page from the front of their manual, 2 types of extraterrestrials. And I will put these into the human class, which is category 2. The first one is EBE type 1. And they're humanoids similar to humans in appearance and could be mistaken for Oriental person. Bipedal, 5 to 5.4 inches in height, weighing 80 to 100 pounds. Similar to human, with slightly larger or more rounded cranium. The skin is pale, chalky yellow in colour, thick, slightly pebbled in appearance. The eyes are small, wide set, almond shaped, with brown-black iris with very large pupils. The whites of the eyes are not like that of humans, but have pale grey cast. The ears are small and not low in the skull. The nose is thin and long, and the mouth wider than humans, nearly lipless. There is no facial hair or very little body hair, that being very fine and confined to the underarms and lower area. The body is thin without apparent body fat, but muscles are well developed. The hands are small, 4 long digits, but no opposing thumb. The outside digit is joined in a manner as to be almost nearly opposable. There is no webbing between the fingers as in humans, and the legs are slightly but noticeably bowed, and the feet are somewhat splayed and proportionately large. That's type 1. Type 2, the Air Force classification under majestic, is that these images are human but different from type 1. They are bipedal, 3'5" to 4'2" in height, and weigh 25 to 30 pounds. The head is much larger than human or type 1. The cranium is much larger and elongated. The eyes are very large, slanted, and nearly wrapped around the side of the skull. They are black, with no whites showing. There's no noticeable brow bridge, and the skull has a slit thing that runs over the brow. The nose consists of 2 small slits, with slits high above the slit-like mouth. There are no external ears. The skin is a pale bluish-grey colour, being somewhat darker on the back of the creature. It's very smooth and fine silk. There's no hair, no facial body hair, and the creature does not appear to be mammalian, feeding young with breast milk. The arms are long in proportion to the legs, and the hands have 3 long tapered fingers and a thumb that is nearly as long as the fingers. The second finger thicker than others, but not as long as the index finger. The feet are small and narrow, and the 4 toes are joined together with a membrane. Majestic points out that these 2 types of creatures may have originated from different planets. They're fairly substantial classification of people who were occupants of UFOs, or associated with UFO activity, and they're fairly significant comments on the different classes. We obviously haven't seen them to do autopsies on, but we are dealing with eyewitness reports that starts to mirror some of that information. We suggest that it's correct. This is the third type of second subclass of humanoid I mentioned earlier was the Nordic tall blondes. They're about 6 to 7 feet tall, handsome, blonde shoulders, length hair, with blue eyes, kind and loving. Now, this information is coming from abductees, people who've been abducted onto flying saucers, and these are their stories. Now, they may not be totally correct, but in essence, they must be getting roughly around the right information. And the consistency between reports, so we're starting to build some pictures. He is parental, watchful, smiling, and affectionate, youthful, all-knowing, and wears tight-fitting uniform, a guardian angel. Usually seen with small greys. They have vivid blue eyes and seem to look alike. The small beings mentioned before, the skin is reported to be soft and porous, with rubbery or plastic feel to it. The tall being's skin is rough and more leathery. Neither type of being has hair, muscular skeletal, and distinguishing marks like warts or moles or discoloration are not seen. Abductees describe alien skin colour in varying shades of grey, from dark grey to chalk white. Tall beings have an air and authority about them. Maybe they represent some sort of hierarchy within aliens, such as a doctor or psychologist on board these ships. Small beings appear to be controlled by. Okay, the next group, which are the androids. Now, the most typical android, I believe, that is seen by abductees is the grey. I don't believe the grey is a humanoid. I believe it is a part robot, part animal type android, is what I'm looking for. And if you look at the behaviour of them, they never run, they never get excited, they're very cool, they do their job and their functions, and when things get into trouble, or there's a problem, a taller being comes in and controls the situation, as we saw with Freddie Harvey. Number 18, please. Okay. And other examples would be the Hopkins-Kelly sighting, and where we saw this sort of frog-like humanoid with big ears. Now that was reported as being silvery, so it's probably a robot. And Pascagoula is also an unusual shaped one. You go to number 19, please. We're looking at aspirations or holographic projections. We're looking at different groups. We're looking at them disappearing from view, not as walking or being beamed up, but actually decreasing or dematerializing. Into that group there. Obviously, we can go into a lot more history about where they come from and what they're doing. We don't have time to deal with that today. I will be writing a book on this particular subject, and it should be out in the next 12 months, so you can hold me to that. And we'll be looking at these particular issues a bit more carefully. So, in conclusion, I'd just like to make a comment about Paddy Barton's statements and paper yesterday. The Copernican Revolution was 1543, where man moved away from his concept of the centre of the universe. I do not want to work backwards, to move backwards towards a centralised universe where we think we're the centre of the universe. Holograms exist. It's the composite of intellectual life manifestations of the universe, not just planet Earth and the universe. The Earth has been visited and coexisted with aliens ever since time began. Human awareness in 1990 has finally realised their presence. Where they be extra or intraterrestrial or dimensional beings, we are not alone. May the force be with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul. Our next speaker will continue where this film ended by expanding on the relevance of channeled information to UFO research. He has been active in Queensland UFO organizations since the late 60s. He is currently the administrator for Australia's only, and to my understanding, true national UFO organization, ActiVoS. His vision is to somehow make this ActiVoS a part of all existing UFO groups in this country now, in order to maintain, protect, and make available all the UFO research and records gathered to everyone concerned. A kind of free national UFO database, if you will. This vision is yet to be realized. How can we not have our support? Please welcome Mark Production.
What I want to speak about today is really more in the field of the philosophy of UFO research. That is to say, when we step back and look at all the things we've been trying to do and ask ourselves, are we going about this in the best possible way? And we step back and say, while we've been busy accusing of the rest of the world of denying the facts and ignoring the facts and not seeing the inferences and implications, do we not sometimes do the same thing ourselves? For after all, we're part of the same community and we share the same shortcomings as the people whose shortcomings we see so very clearly. And so it is that in conferences and gatherings like this one, channeled material and the accounts of contactees tend not to get too much attention. I think part of the stated reason for this is it's too way out for the other side of the society that we want to attract, the scientists and the general run of the public that we want to get our messages out to. We don't dare to be that way out. But I think there's also an unspoken agenda too. It hurts to stretch the mind that far. It opens chasms and fears and uncertainties, and we are human beings as well as researchers, and are subject to our failings as well. So I hope that in addressing this topic of channeled material, I can force myself and all of us to see a little more clearly why we've taken our particular stance in UFO research and how perhaps we might improve on it. I'm not here to tell you that channeled material is true or real or accurate. That is not up for UFO researchers to determine. We have our own questions to answer, as I'll point out. So what is channeled material? What is channeling? It's one aspect of a rather broader category of information, sometimes called received information, in which an individual somehow switches off their consciousness to such a degree that another consciousness allegedly is able to communicate through the communication equipment of that person, be it automatic writing or the voice faculties of that individual. That's the theory of channeling. And I'm not here to tell you that this is true or not true. It's not really quite relevant to my concern here. But I think that's a fair definition of what channeling is understood to be. A classical case is of a person who is confronted by a group of people like this one and sits down in a chair and makes a few jerky movements and a few other sounds and then appears to be in a different state of consciousness. When questions are put, the answers coming claim to be from a different consciousness than that of the person sitting there. And often I've seen many people accept that as being the fact that those answers are really coming from a different intelligence than the one associated with the individual who they see. That's channeled material. I looked at channeled material quite carefully 20 or 25 years ago. As I think all of us do at one point or another, we look at everything to see what might be learned from it. And my finding about it was roughly that there is an enormous amount of material of this kind around. You can get it by the bookload. I have that much shelving of it, and I didn't even try to collect it all. I just looked at some. And some of it, to me, was very profound. A small portion of the channeled material is what I would call of a high quality. The ideas are profound, the motivation of the source seems to be of a high moral order, etc. The attention to detail, the attention to truth seems to be genuine. So I would call that of a high quality. But the bulk of channeled material, in my finding, tended to be recycled, that is to say, a repetition of something which you could find in print somewhere else from an earlier time. When channeled information makes predictions, those predictions are just as bad as predictions made by almost everyone else. They usually fail at the critical time. We've had examples of this just in the last couple of years. So the ability to make predictions that are fulfilled by subsequent historical experience doesn't establish channeling as accurate or reliable to a large degree, no more so than most other forms of prediction. But typically, a channeled body of material has a well-defined worldview. It paints a clear picture. Forget for the moment if that picture is true or false, real or not, it's clear. I don't think if I were a channeler here speaking to you, I'd hold your attention for very long if I couldn't project a well-defined story of some kind, give you a clear worldview of some kind. And I want to draw on this latter feature most especially when I look at how channeled material might be applied in UFO research. Before doing so, I'd like to briefly give what I think is a good definition of what UFO research is. I think it's fair to say that most UFO researchers take the view that the UFO phenomenon is at least to some extent physically real, has a physical reality to it. Too many people have bumped into them and kicked them and been bumped by these things, either the UFO or its occupants, for that not to be a reasonable premise. That does not mean, of course, that they are only real in the sense that we understand physical reality. We're simply saying that whatever else they may be, they also can behave like physically real objects, and therefore the methods of research that have worked well for us in studying other physically real things like nature and the physical world have a relevance to UFO research. And I think in any research practice, it is very important to distinguish facts from inferences. We need both to understand a phenomenon. What we tend to do, and the thing that we always have to guard against doing, is to judge what can be fact by whether or not it agrees with what we think the world is like, our inferences. I think the early history of UFO research came up very hard against this particular problem. When UFOs displayed the physical characteristics they did, the apparent weightlessness, the tremendous changes in speed and direction at very high inverted acceleration, the first reaction of the most qualified people was, this is physically impossible. Therefore, that can't be a true factual statement. It doesn't fit my theories, so it can't be a fact. We're still probably up against that to a large degree, although perhaps less so than before. So as UFO researchers, we have to guard carefully against judging facts by our theories or our beliefs about what is real or true. We have to have a methodology for letting facts speak for themselves, for deciding what is a fact on the merits of the factual side of it, while our theoretical thinking is switched off for the time being. And then when we've done that, then we try to assimilate the facts into some kind of conceptual framework by a process which no longer is worried about whether facts are facts or not, but accepts them for the moment as facts and says, well, what sense can I make of it? So we do this just like we have 2 feet and we stand on one while we take a step with the other, and we'll put that one down and stand on the next while we take a step with the next one. Rather so do we do the fact gathering and the interpreting stepwise. And when we're doing one, we're not doing the other. If we try to do the 2 together, we'll trip and fall. It's a bit like that with UFO research as well. So that's the kind of thing I think we all do in one way or another. And that, in fact, is essentially what is called the scientific method, or shall we put it the other way around? As science became established and grew, scientists adopted this method, which existed before science ever had a name, as a good way of studying the natural world. And I don't think there's any arguments about that. It's a good method. It works quite well if we do it the right way. Okay, well, that's UFO research as I understand it. And now I can address the question of what can we do, or what can we use channeled material for in furthering our attempts to understand the UFO phenomenon. And in this respect, I think it's fair to say that channeled material does not contribute very much to a factual kind. There isn't much of a factual kind in the channeled body of information, so that there is maybe difficult to establish factually. If there is, we apply the normal rules of factual analysis to it, let the facts stand on their own. If they come out of that test tank, we'll take it as fact. We don't have that much of it. What we have in the channeled body of material is a lot of ideas and concepts and belief systems. And just because they're that kind of stuff, there's no reason to ignore them. Because we need ideas and concepts and belief systems in order to make sense of the body of facts that we have associated with the UFO phenomenon by a careful process of assessment, categorizing, truth finding, and so on. But they're just a lump of great pile of facts until we make sense of them, and we need a conceptual framework with ideas, notions, theories, and so on, with which to order them into something that might be an explanation of the things we don't know. We're trying to go from the things we know as facts to the things we don't know by this process of inference. And then we think we've made some sort of progress. We say we have developed some kind of understanding of this phenomenon. Okay, so it is in the field of ideas and concepts that channel material can be the most helpful. And I would like to illustrate this by making reference to a particular sample of channel material. You've been looking here at this picture. It was published in something called The Voice of Universarius, which I received. I became a subscriber to that publication. It was produced in the United States within the early 1970s through most of the 70s. And I also obtained some back copies of their publication because I was keen to complete my collection of what they were printing. This picture refers to Clarion. Clarion is a planet described by my knowledge happened in the 50s, in the early or middle 50s. He was working with the road gang, building roads in the western desert of the United States. To get the exact place right now, during the hot days, a lot of the work, especially maintenance work, was done at night. So he would work maintaining the vehicles and machinery, and then he had what was a lunch break at midnight or thereabouts. He'd drive off into the desert to have his lunch in the commons. And on these occasions, he saw a large object land. He saw little beings come out of it. He had a repeated series of such sightings and encounters with the occupants, and became quite friendly with the lady captain that drove this thing. They were smallish beings, who said she came from a planet called Clarion, which was beyond the moon. That's the only description she gave of it, and was a place we couldn't see with our telescopes. I believe that's what the word Clarion here refers to. And both of you who have read Alec Newell's recent book called Co-Evolution may recognize a faint similarity between the diagrams in his book and the artwork in this picture. Has anyone seen that, read that book of Newell's? Anyone here? One, or is it you? Do you notice a similarity with the structures he shows on this world that he says he went to? And some of the images here, I certainly picked it up. And I thought you might be interested to see it. Now, this thing was published in 1978. The channeled message that I'm going to use as reference, if I may have the next slide, please, was first produced, or the claimed dating of it was 1967. I'll give you the date here. The communication was given in March 1967 to a person called Marian Harkin. And the claimed source of this communication was Myron of the Ashtar Command. You've all heard of the Ashtar Command. Did you know that it was popular in the 1960s? If you didn't, then you haven't realized how much recycled material you're getting in channel sources. That doesn't mean that it's necessarily false. If the Ashtar Command is real, it's probably been around for a long time. I'm not concerned to evaluate the truth or not of channeled material, but just to look at it. So the Ashtar Command has been around for a long time. Now, look at that. The title of this particular message is Guidelines of Space Contact. The guidelines of space contact are these. I've also included on that page the source from which I got it. Notice it's The Voice of Universarius. The person editing and publishing it was an elderly gentleman called Zelram Karlsvik, whom I met in 1980 in Portland, Oregon. This particular issue was number 17 of October, volume 17 of October 1978. And notice that they've been going for 17 years at that point. Number 10, of course, is for the 10th month. These are monthly issues. I don't have time to go through all of them in detail. I wish to make specific reference to paragraph number 6, which is on the next slide, please. Let's just look at that one. Paragraph number 6. The Earth is a battleground. The forces of evil employ ships of great size and beauty, just as do the Christ forces. Now, you may recall that in the 50s and 60s, the Space Brothers were all benevolent, wonderful, beautiful beings. In the 1990s, there are no Space Brothers of benevolent, wonderful inclination. They're all baddies, it's one from one extreme to the other. In 1967, somebody was saying, there are both kinds. And you can't tell the difference by seeing how lovely the spaceships are. Number two, unprepared Earthlings who seek contact must not do so without knowledge of how to set up a positive force field and hold it around themselves. In other words, don't just rush into a contact, protect yourself first. Is that bad advice in today's context? Next item. The negative forces can and do abduct thousands of people each year off the surface of the earth, as well as animals, water, and vegetation. Now, we knew a fair bit about that then. We know a lot more about it today. These samples are used for a hideous purpose. The source here didn't seem to have abductions, or what we today call the various genetically related procedures that seem to be associated with abductions.